Let's go!
You're going to get right to the point, huh?
Game of the year in the SEC. Well, I should just say the game of the week. Georgia, Tennessee. So many different factors at play, including injuries to key players. But to me, the one thing that really stood out in Georgia's beatdown versus the Vols last season was their skill guys that are still on the team now, who have mostly been non-factors, absolutely torched the Vols last year, and you see Arian Smith get a huge reverse here. And as many of you know, the superstar in the game last year was Dylan Bell, who's had his moments, right? He had the big play versus Alabama. A lot of people expected him to potentially be the alpha here, and Georgia does a really good job picking up the blitz, and the slant from Dylan Bell is not only caught, but taken almost to the freaking house after the catch. So here's Georgia basically running mesh, right? And this was a play that Tennessee over the years has had their issues guarding. If you play a lot of man coverage, you've got to be careful when mesh happens. And the funny thing about it is Tennessee gets a really good rush off the edge right here from James Pierce. Tackle opens up a little too wide, but Carson Beck, two hands on the football, resets, and as you can see, he has nobody on him, and you'll see that the two shallow drags with this mesh opens itself up, right? You got a shallow drag right here from 6, who's now the number one option for Georgia. Obviously, that's Dominic Lovett, and his job is just to create some traffic for 0, and that's exactly what happens, and it's an easy pitch and catch right here for Carson Beck. Now, that was last year's game. There is so much here that has changed. So now we get to the current iteration of the Georgia Bulldogs offense, and if you're a Tennessee fan, you have to like your matchup on the edges, right? This was a huge day for Ole Miss's pass rush. They even tried a tight end to come in and help. Delp gets beat really bad, and Perkins comes in and makes the easy sack here. Then obviously, if you're Tennessee, forcing Carson Beck to scramble like he's done in big games this season, you take that all day, every day. So you have an interior rush right here, and then you have a twister coming around. And as you can see, Carson Beck just doesn't feel comfortable in this pocket at all. And yes, he ends up rushing for a pretty nice gain of yards, but this is what you want him doing instead of actually making plays with his arm. So now it's 2nd and 10, and this is when you can really pin your ears back because you know that they have to throw. So getting out to a lead will definitely help out these matchups. 71, of course, just could not block Princely. He had a huge rush to the inside as well. That's another benefit of playing a quarterback like Carson Beck. You can rush either side, and that is a game-sealing sack right there. If you get Georgia into these 3rd and long situations, obviously James Pierce and this pass rush should be able to cook. And even though Georgia does return a lot of their skill guys from last year's game that cooked Tennessee, obviously you feel a lot better about your coverage. Now, once again, this game going to be on the road. It's going to be difficult, but that's what you want. That's the blueprint. Carson Beck this season has had a massive interception issue. He will be back at home. 10 of his 12 interceptions have come away from Georgia. So you'll see here, they're running dagger, vertical here, and an in-breaker here. And Beck just assumes that this linebacker can't get over the middle here. And guess what? He does, okay? This ball obviously would have hit him right in stride. It's a really good play by the defensive player, but that's one thing he's done is just throwing the football to the other team. So one thing working against Tennessee is you really only played one true road game. You can't really count Oklahoma because they had absolutely nothing at quarterback and have been the worst offense in the SEC. And then, of course, you played NC State, and you'll see at the snap here, you're struggling to get your coverage calls in, right, on 2 different levels of the defense. Arkansas hurries up and snaps the football. And look, the protection's really good. You're going to hope that James Pierce is going to be able to win these matchups, and you don't give Carson Beck a pocket quite like this one, and you don't give him a look where it is very easy versus that split field coverage to hit an explosive over the middle. It can't be that static. And Georgia's best offensive player, Trevor Etienne, is just been sensational. He's PFF's number 1 player on their offense, and when he's healthy, they're going to feed him because this is an offense that's lacking that elite skill position talent, and you'll see you get a really nice second-level block right here from the center. You run right through the A-gap, and then obviously that's what Georgia's going to want to do to help out Carson Beck, run it right up the gut. And the key thing, of course, are making these big tackles to make sure this isn't an explosive game. I think Georgia's going to try and run the football right at Pierce. Okay, so you see him here in a defensive tackle alignment. And honestly, Tennessee has this pretty gap sound, but watch what happens. Pierce is in this gap. You'll see that he peeks over into this gap, and guess what? The running back's able to run through the gap where he was, okay? Run fitting, not really his game. So Georgia's going to look to establish that bad boy, and you need to be ready to stop it. And as many Tennessee fans know, this Tennessee rush defense is probably the best in the SEC, so let's see if it holds up. Georgia's best player this year defensively has been number 11, Jalen Walker. You'll see him force this turnover. They get him in a one-on-one matchup versus an offensive guard, which is one the guard is not going to win. You have a twisting backer coming around. This is what Georgia's just known for, right? Just bringing looping blitzers over the middle, right? It won him their first national championship versus Bryce Young, and it's still a big piece of what they do. Walker, the pressure right up the middle, forces this quick throw right here from Jackson Dart, and it's an early turnover, and this ended up being what led to Georgia's only touchdown in the entire game. Then you see him off the edge here. This play actually won Georgia this game because if he doesn't get around the corner here, I have a Twitter breakdown from a different angle. If he doesn't actually bend this edge right here, this shallow drag is completed for not only a first down, but it gets him into field goal range more than likely. You can see Walker beats him around the edge and forces this ball to be incomplete or basically just popped directly up in the air. So absolutely phenomenal player. So I know Tennessee fans are very worried about their offensive tackles holding up, but the good thing is if you see press man and you throw the ball quickly, you could still get vertical, right? 57 has been one of the worst tackles in the SEC, and you'll see that Chambliss, one of their decent pass rushers, is able to get around the edge there, but because this is such a quick developing deep vertical shot, Alabama's able to still get explosive. And while Tennessee doesn't have a superstar like a Ryan Williams, Brew McCoy and most of the receivers are probably better than Emmanuel Henderson. So throw it up there, let him make plays. And one thing I like about that is Gaston Moore can throw a go, right? So I think even if Nico's not healthy, this is something Tennessee can exploit. And if Georgia's going to do a lot of this cross-dog blitzes, which they are known for, it's really so tough to stop, you must make them pay over the intermediate middle. Okay, so this is where, Miles Kitzelman and those guys step into play. You'll take that all day, every day. Once again, that is a throw Gaston Moore can complete, and you just got to make Georgia pay. You just do. So this could be the matchup of the two best running backs in the SEC. Can Tennessee establish the daggum thing with Dylan Sampson and company versus what should be a motivated Georgia Bulldog team? What's funny was Tennessee actually led this all-time series by 2 games. It was 21-23 and 2 until Georgia has won the last 7, right? Kirby has just dominated the Vols. And the thing is, this game has not even been close. And in order to defeat this Josh Heupel offense, you got to have these athletes that can go out there and make plays in space. And that's essentially what this game has come down to in a very simple sense, right? Georgia has been able to defend the Tennessee run game with limited numbers in the box. Outside of that Jalen Wright long touchdown run, it's been mostly domination in the trenches. And look, if Nico comes out and plays and throws absolute slot fade dimes such as this versus Georgia's DBs, this game will be competitive. But for me, I actually do think Georgia's going to roll. I think that they're going to respond knowing that their backs are against the wall. And I want to see Tennessee make this game competitive, even though this Georgia team is just not playing 1-20. Let me know what you guys think down below. Vol Nation, you guys have been so good to me. So let's see what you can do. once again, this will be one of the most intense environments of the season. And Georgia fans for so long have been talking about, well, we don't have the big home games, if you will. Well, here's your chance, okay? It is Power Hour SEC. Boom. And tonight, we're doing barbecue chicken. Let's go.